My husband and I have a series of favourite 80s phrases we like to play bingo with when we're watching sports personalities being interviewed on the television. It's a game of two halves. I'm over the moon, I'm sick of the parrot. Our favourite policey one is, we can't arrest ourselves out of this problem. And while never a truer word was spoken, I'm always impressed that we continue in one way or another to try. Okay, so that might not be entirely fair, but we do continue to address complex problems by doing policey things. Probably, I hear you say, because we're the police. But let's think about the net results of continuing to see problems through police eyes. Instead of seeing problems as patterns in the system, as seeing issues in terms of their connection to social disorder, instead of as an emergent property of the system of which we are part. Does that limit our ability to see other points of view? Does that limit our ability to truly question our underlying assumptions? Does it limit our ability to learn, and in learning, to recognise and deal with the dynamic complexity of modern life? Let me give you two examples. On the front page of our local rag, the day I was writing this, was an article about one-punch attacks. Essentially, one person throws a single punch at another person, usually while drunk on a night out, with tragic consequences. Following a number of high-profile attacks like this in Sydney, the then Premier in 2014 introduced a range of measures including mandatory 8-year sentences for such attacks and a series of lockout measures, meaning you couldn't get entry to a bar after 1:30 in the morning and you couldn't be served a drink after 3. Now, there was a statistically significant reduction in assaults in these areas following these changes, although some evidence of displacement has since emerged. What's interesting is that while not a police decision, of course, to enact these legislative changes, it is a characteristically policey response. Crime problem, technical fix. Rise in attacks, let's try and arrest our way out. Sure, the police in this scenario are as much the victims of the policey thinking amongst legislators, government, community, as they are the prisoners of their own way of viewing the world. But as police officers experiencing the pointy end of that nighttime economy, I wonder what thought they gave to the impact that large drinking venues had on the issue, that club hopping was regarded as a sport, and that the licensing regulations had made smaller venues less profitable. Had they done this, had they identified less policey levers, and had they then worked to shape the views of stakeholders to give it a go, we might have made a different type of progress on this issue. Second, you may know that same-sex marriage was signed into law in Australia on the 8th of December this year, legalising, amongst other things, the formal recognition of love between same-sex couples. Finally, I might add. But not so long ago, same-sex intimacy was an offence. And as recently as 1997, a defence of gay panic was successfully used as mitigating circumstances in a murder case, where the murderer claimed he was provoked by the unwanted advances of a friend. What's interesting is that in a relatively short period of time, our framing of the issue has shifted from a problem of social disorder to a recognition of it as a celebrated part of social variance. Mardi Gras is a huge event in the Sydney calendar. Politicians march alongside Aboriginal transgender women from the Tiwi Islands, called the Sister Girls, along the famous Dykes on Bikes motorcycle club, and alongside proud LGBTIQ police officers who not so many years ago would have been attending the parade in a very different capacity. Clearly then, our disorder lens and with it our problem-solving bias is governed by assumptions fixed in time and space. Today's solution may be tomorrow's problem, but today's problem may also be tomorrow's opportunity to leverage a new way of operating.